Okay, welcome to this tutorial. We will talk about two things, basically the for loop as well as the while loop in C++. Now, you have to understand that a loop in C++ simply makes a program repeat some statements a number of times. For example, think about this. Suppose you want to write this, okay? Coding is easier. Okay, coding is easy. So coding is easy. Now, you want this to display on the screen, let's say 5 times. So what can we do? We can do this. We can say cout coding is easy, and then I'm going to duplicate this, okay, so many times, and then put something here. Maybe I can put a slash n there. I can put /n to mean go to the next line. I can do the same for the other statement here. So I say that. Okay, and I also say that. Okay, and then I can run this program here. So when I run this, okay, when I run this, I'll save this as a oops example. Okay. So when I run this, so I'm able to get this repetition. Coding is easy. Now you see where the problem comes in is, suppose I was taught to do this, to repeat this 100 times. Or suppose you want to change something here, you say, oh, I made a mistake. I was supposed to say coding is easier. Okay, so you have to begin changing all this. Now, how about if we can find out to just write, okay, write this once and then be able to let it repeat a number of times. Okay, that's what we can do with a loop. Now, to begin with, I'm going to talk about the first kind of loop here, which is the while loop. Okay? The while loop. So this while loop, okay, the way it works is, let me put some comments here just for us to follow through. Okay, so I'll do this and that. Okay. So the while loop, okay, the while loop, what does is it repeats. Repeats some statement as long as a particular condition is true. Okay, as long as some condition is true. Now I can give you an example of this. Let's say I've got a variable here x, okay, and then I'm going to say x. I'm going to give it a value of what? Okay, 5. Now I'll write a condition which is true. I'm going to say if x is less than 10, okay, then do the following. So if x is less than 10, then do the following. So what am I going to do? I'll get this, okay, I'll get this and put it in there. Okay. What is going to happen here? Let's try to run this code. So run this. To get coding is easy. So what happens is x is less than 10. Okay. Now let's try to now substitute where there is if we substitute it for a word while. So the word with the word while is a reserved word that makes a program to repeat some statement for as long as some condition is true. Now here we are saying while x is less or equal to 10. This is true. So what do we expect? We expect this to be repeated for as long as this condition is true. Now let's run this program and see what we're going to get. Okay. Okay, wow, you see that? You see this coding is easy and still running and running and running. Why is this the case? Again, why are we seeing this? It's because the program is running this statement for as long as this condition is true. And what's happening here is x is 5, so it comes here. Wow, what is x? It's 5. Is it less than 10? True. So it goes and runs this. And then it goes back to the condition and checks if the condition is true. So the way the while loop works is whenever a loop is executed, the program will go back to the condition and check if the condition is still true. So the program keeps going back to the condition and keeps finding that the condition is ever true. Hence, we see that flow of that coming. You see the program displaying Let's see that again. Okay, we see this running, running, and running. Okay, so what we have here is an example of what is called an infinite loop, where the loop keeps running because the condition is ever true. Now, is there a way we can get this condition to become false at some point? Yes, if we are saying x begins from 5, and for as long as x is less than 10, maybe what we can do is we can be increasing the value of x by 1 so that the value of x will eventually reach 10 so that the condition is going to be true. So what can we do here? Let's do this. Okay, x is equal to x plus 1. So meaning whenever we run this statement, we are going to increase x by 1. So what we are saying is what we have written here is going to be repeated for as long as this condition is true. So the program first x is 5, it will check it's true and run this, but increase here x by 1, x will become 6. To go back here, find that x is still less than 10, to run this and then increase x will become 7, and then go back here, x is 7, still true. So this will go on until when x is 10. Now when x is 10, the program will check and find that x is not less than 10, and it won't do this. That's the point where the loop is going to terminate. So let's try to run this statement. Okay. So you see, so this is being displayed 5 times according to this. When x is 5, when x is 6, when x is 7, when x is 8, when x is 9, and when x is 10. I mean, when x is 9, that's what it terminates. When x is 10, this terminates and doesn't go anywhere because the condition becomes false. So what are we having here? We have a case where the condition is true and the program will repeat, and then we have something that is making the value of x to go towards that condition where that situation where the condition is going to become false so as to make the loop terminate. So a loop must not run into infinite. It should run and stop at some point. However, this basically illustrates how we write the while loop in C++. Now let's try to see how we can do the same thing now using the other loop, the for loop. Okay, so given that you have understood the concept here on the while loop, let's now do the same repetition here now using the for loop. Now, the for loop, can we just put some comment here? Okay, so for loop, how this loop works is it's literally, okay, it counts, okay, how many times some statement has been executed. Okay, executed. So what it means is it uses an integer, nothing else but an integer. It's an integer. Sorry about that. Integer to count. Okay, to count. So the way it is this integer. Okay, this integer has a starting point. Okay, and also has a ending point. Okay, and okay, can count two ways, upwards or downwards. Okay, it's as simple as that. Now what I'm going to do is I'll leave this here, then try to repeat the same thing now here. Okay, now using the same example of the loop. So now here we are saying the for loop will make use of an integer. So what we'll do is we'll already have the integer x, okay? So I'll make use of this integer here. So the way it works is like this. You write the weight for. Then the next in the brackets there, indicate where is the integer going to begin from. In our case, our x can begin from 1. The next thing you put is a semicolon. Next thing you can indicate is where should our x end, or what is the terminating condition. We want x in this case to go as far as 5. So say x is less or equal to 5, meaning any value from 1 to 5, any value of x less than or equal to 5. Then how are we counting? For us to reach 1, for us to reach 5 from 1, we have to be counting upwards. How do you indicate this? You say x plus plus. This means my x is going to be increasing. Then how we do this? Now what this means is, what I'm going to put here is the statement to be repeated. Okay, so what I'm going to put here is going to be repeated. Okay, how does this work? So in our case, all we want is to just display this. So let's get this statement here. Okay, so the coding is easy with a for loop. Okay, so we're expecting when x is 1, this will be repeated, then automatically x will increase. Then x becomes 2, this will be repeated. X becomes 3 because it's still true according to this condition. We'll repeat this. When x is 4, we'll repeat. When x is 5, we'll repeat. And x will increase, become 6, but then it won't meet this condition here. It will be out of range. So this is only repeated, it's only done if and only if the value of x is between 1 and 5 according to this condition here. So the summary of how to write a for loop is you specify where the integer will start from, you specify where it's going to end, and you specify the model for counting, whether it's counting upwards or downwards. Okay, so let's try to run this. Okay, so we're able to see this repetition is for the while, this one is now with for loop. Let's do another one where we can count backwards. Okay, I'll give an example here. So I'll say I will try to put a new variable here. I'm going to call it B. Let me just call it C. Then I'll say 4. So I want C to begin from 10, and then C should be less, greater, or equal to 3. Okay, I want to count from 10 to 3, and then so you see when you're counting downwards, even the sign here is going to change. It becomes greater or equal to. Then you say C minus minus. Here we said x plus plus, but now here we are saying C minus minus, meaning we're counting downwards. Okay, and then I'll put some statement here. Say counting. This is a for loop counting downwards. Okay, it's a for loop counting downwards. Okay, for the sake of seeing some things, we will want to see maybe the current value of C at any point in time. So we can put that C there. So we say counting downwards, okay, then we say C, meaning we want to see the actual value of X, C at any point. So there I will say NL, then that. So what do you expect to see when you run this? You expect this to be written on the screen, I think 8 times from 10 to 3. And then this also displaying the value of C from 10 counting backwards. So let's see what we get if we run this program here. Okay, so we're able to see this. Okay, for loop continues, for loop counting back downwards. So that's the value. So when C is 10, when C was 9, until when C was 3, there was a repetition here. Okay, so if you are counting downwards, what we're saying is specify where to begin from, where you're going to end, and say I'm counting backwards by saying C minus minus. And whatever is going to be repeated, the best is put it in those brackets. Okay, so I hope this demonstrates a brief examples, a brief overview of how to make use of loops in our program. So next, we'll try to do something with these simple concepts.